The arrival. The day the alien ships appeared in Earth's orbit started like any other. Dr. Elena Reyes, lead astronomer at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, was reviewing data from the previous night's observations when her computer screen suddenly lit up with anomalous readings. "What in the world?" she muttered, leaning closer to the monitor. The readings were off the charts, unlike anything she'd seen before. As she zoomed in on the source, her breath caught in her throat. There, hovering just beyond the moon's orbit, was a fleet of massive dark objects that certainly weren't asteroids or any known celestial bodies. Elena's fingers flew across the keyboard, confirming and reconfirming her findings. There was no doubt about it. These were artificial structures, and they were heading towards Earth. "Carlos," she shouted to her assistant, "get me the director, now." Within hours, observatories and space agencies around the world were abuzz with activity. The alien ships, for there was no other way to describe them, had taken up positions around the globe, their sleek obsidian forms visible even to the naked eye. In Washington, D.C., President Samantha Chen sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by her top military advisors and scientists. The room was tense, filled with the low murmur of urgent conversations and the constant ping of incoming messages. "Madam President," General Marcus Harding, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, began. "We've attempted to establish communication with the alien vessels, but so far there's been no response. Our satellites show they're armed, but they haven't made any overtly aggressive moves yet." President Chen nodded, her face a mask of calm despite the gravity of the situation. "And our defenses? We're at death's gone too," Harding replied. "All military personnel are on high alert, and we've activated our missile defense systems. But honestly, ma'am, if their technology is advanced enough for interstellar travel, I'm not sure how effective our weapons will be." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the President's chief science advisor, cleared her throat. "Madam President, if I may, we need to consider the possibility that their intentions might not be hostile. This could be a first contact scenario, or it could be an invasion force," General Harding countered. President Chen held up a hand to forestall further debate. "I understand both perspectives, but right now we need to prepare for all scenarios. Dr. Tanaka, continue your efforts to establish communication. General Harding, I want our forces ready to defend Earth if necessary, but no preemptive strikes. We don't want to start an interstellar war if we can avoid it." As the meeting continued, similar scenes played out in capitals around the world. Humanity, for the first time in its history, was united in the face of a potential extraterrestrial threat. In Beijing, the Chinese Politburo convened an emergency session. In Moscow, the Russian president ordered their strategic rocket forces to stand ready. The European Union held an unprecedented midnight summit, while the United Nations Security Council gathered for an emergency meeting. Meanwhile, in orbit, the alien ships maintained their silent vigil. Their hulls seemed to absorb light, creating an unsettling void against the star-studded backdrop of space. Occasional flashes of energy pulsed across their surfaces, hinting at the immense power contained within. Back at the Arecibo Observatory, Dr. Elena Reyes worked tirelessly, analyzing every scrap of data she could gather about the alien vessels. She had been on a video call with scientists from NASA, ESA, and JAXA for hours, sharing findings and theories. "The energy readings from these ships are off the charts," she explained, pointing to a graph on her screen. "Whatever propulsion system they're using, it's like nothing we've ever seen before. And the materials of their hulls, they seem to be absorbing most of our scanning attempts." Dr. James Wong from NASA nodded in agreement. "We've noticed the same thing. It's like they're wrapped in some kind of stealth technology. But here's something interesting. We've detected slight variations in their shield strength corresponding to Earth's magnetic field fluctuations." Elena leaned forward, intrigued. "Are you suggesting their technology might be vulnerable to electromagnetic interference?" "It's a possibility," James replied. "We need more data to confirm, but it could be a potential weakness if, Well, if things go south. As the scientists continued their discussion, a commotion erupted outside the observatory. Alina looked out the window to see people pointing at the sky, their faces a mix of awe and fear. She rushed outside, her heart pounding. The alien ships were moving. Slowly, majestically, the massive vessels began to descend towards Earth's atmosphere. Their obsidian hulls reflected the sun's light, creating an eerie, eclipse-like effect. As they entered the upper atmosphere, a low rumble began to build, felt more than heard, vibrating through the ground and rattling windows. Alina's phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Dr. Tanaka from the White House. "Alina, are you seeing this?" Yuki's voice was tense. "Yes," Alina replied, her eyes fixed on the descending ships. "They're entering the atmosphere. But Yuki, something's odd. Their descent. It's not smooth. It's almost as if..." She trailed off as she watched the alien vessel's movements become increasingly erratic. The ships seemed to be struggling, their once graceful forms now wobbling and shuddering as they pushed deeper into Earth's atmosphere. "They're having trouble with our gravity," Alina breathed, realization dawning. "Yuki, I think we might have just found their weakness." As the alien ships continued their turbulent descent, humanity held its collective breath. The moment of truth had arrived, and Earth's unexpected defense, its very gravity, was about to be put to the test. The stage was set for a confrontation unlike any in human history. Humanity versus an advanced alien race, with the added wild card of Earth's natural forces. As the ships drew closer to the surface, one question burned in everyone's minds. Would humanity's ingenuity and Earth's gravity be enough to repel the alien threat? The answer would soon reveal itself as the first alien ship prepared to land on Earth's surface. First contact gone wrong. As the alien ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their struggles became increasingly apparent. What had started as slight wobbles evolved into violent shuddering, the massive vessels bucking against Earth's gravity like broncos at a rodeo. In the White House Situation Room, all eyes were glued to the giant screens displaying live feeds from around the globe. President Chen leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concentration. "What exactly are we seeing here, Dr. Tanaka?" she asked, gesturing at the erratic movements of the alien craft. Dr. Yuki Tanaka pushed her glasses up her nose, her eyes bright with excitement despite the tension in the room. "It appears, Madam President, that the aliens are having significant difficulty adjusting to Earth's gravitational field. Their technology, while far advanced in terms of space travel, seems ill-equipped to handle the increased gravity of our planet." General Harding scoffed. "Are you telling me these advanced aliens didn't account for differences in planetary gravity?" "It's not that simple, General," Tanaka replied. "The aliens might come from a planet with much lower gravity. Their bodies and technology would be adapted to those conditions. Earth's gravity, which we take for granted, could be like trying to walk underwater for them." President Chen nodded slowly. "And how does this affect our situation?" "It gives us an advantage we never expected," Tanaka said, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "Their ships are struggling, their landing will be difficult, and if they try to deploy ground forces, they'll be at a severe disadvantage." The president turned to General Harding. "Your thoughts, General?" Harding's face was grim but determined. "If Dr. Tanaka is right, this could be our chance to strike. We should mobilize our forces immediately, prepare to engage the aliens as soon as they land." "Not so fast," Chen cautioned. "We still don't know their intentions. This could be a peaceful mission gone wrong. We need more information before we commit to military action." As if on cue, one of the communication officers called out, "Madam President, we're receiving a transmission from the alien ships." The room fell silent as a series of strange, rhythmic sounds filled the air. After a moment, a computerized voice began to translate. "People of Earth, we come in peace. We are the Zorak, travelers from a distant star. We seek to establish diplomatic relations and share our knowledge. We apologize for any alarm our arrival may have caused. We request permission to land and meet with your leaders." President Chen exchanged glances with her advisors. The aliens' words were peaceful, but their actions, a massive fleet of armed ships, told a different story. "Respond to them," Chen ordered. "Inform the Zorak that we acknowledge their message and are considering their request. In the meantime, they are to maintain their current positions." As the message was relayed, the alien ships continued their struggle against Earth's gravity. Suddenly, one of the smaller ships lost control entirely. It spiraled downwards, its sleek form tumbling end over end as it plummeted towards the Earth's surface. "It's going to crash," someone shouted. The room watched in horrified fascination as the alien vessel streaked across the sky, a bright fireball marking its rapid descent. It disappeared behind the horizon, and moments later, a bright flash illuminated the sky. "Location of impact," President Chen demanded. "Southern Nevada, Ma'am," an officer replied. "Approximately 150 miles northwest of Las Vegas." "Deploy recovery teams immediately," Chen ordered. "I want that crash site secured and any survivors contained. General Harding, you have authorization to use military force if necessary, but remember, we're not at war yet. First contact is still possible." As orders were relayed and forces mobilized, the remaining alien ships seemed to stabilize somewhat, adjusting their positions to compensate for Earth's gravity. But it was clear they were still struggling. Meanwhile, at the crash site in Nevada, local law enforcement had already established a perimeter. State Trooper Sarah Martinez was one of the first on the scene, and she could scarcely believe her eyes. The alien ship had carved a massive furrow in the desert landscape, leaving a trail of smoking debris for miles. At the end of this trail lay the main body of the ship, its once sleek form now a twisted wreck of unfamiliar metals and pulsing energy fields. As Sarah approached, weapon drawn, she saw movement near the ship. A hatch was opening, and something was emerging. She raised her rifle, heart pounding, as she got her first look at an actual alien. The creature that stumbled out of the ship was both familiar and utterly foreign. It was roughly humanoid, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, but that's where the similarities ended. Its skin was a mottled green-gray, its limbs long and spindly. But what struck Sarah most was how the alien moved. It seemed to be in pain, its movements slow and labored. As more aliens emerged from the ship, Sarah realized they were all struggling. They moved as if each step was an immense effort, their slender bodies trembling under Earth's stronger gravitational pull. One of the aliens noticed Sarah and the other officers. It raised a hand in what seemed to be a peaceful gesture, then began to speak. The sounds it made were unlike anything Sarah had ever heard, a series of clicks, whistles, and low rumbles. Suddenly, one of the aliens produced what looked like a weapon. Whether it was a hostile act or simply a confused reaction to a stressful situation, Sarah never knew. Instinct took over, and she fired a warning shot into the air. The effect on the aliens was immediate and shocking. The sound of the gunshot, amplified by their sensitive hearing, sent them reeling. Several fell to the ground, overwhelmed by the noise and their own inability to move freely in Earth's gravity. As the situation at the crash site rapidly deteriorated, similar scenes were playing out around the world. Alien ships, struggling against Earth's gravity, were making emergency landings or crashing. Earth's military forces, initially mobilized to defend against a superior enemy, found themselves facing a foe crippled by the very planet they sought to invade. In orbit, the larger alien ships maintained their positions, seemingly unwilling or unable to risk a descent to the surface. Their continued presence loomed over the planet, a reminder that despite humanity's unexpected advantage, the threat was far from over. Back in Washington, President Chen received reports from around the globe. The pattern was clear. The aliens were physically incapable of operating effectively in Earth's gravity. What had seemed like an overwhelming invasion force was now a scattered, struggling group of beings fighting against the very nature of the planet they had come to conquer. It seems, Dr. Tanaka said, a note of wonder in her voice, that Earth itself might be our greatest defender. President Chen nodded, her face set in grim determination. Perhaps, but this isn't over. The aliens are down, but not out. We need to press our advantage while we have it. She turned to General Harding. General, prepare our forces for a coordinated global response. We need to secure every landing and crash site, contain any alien survivors, and be ready to defend against any new moves from their orbital fleet. As the orders went out, humanity prepared for its first true engagement with an alien force. The initial invasion had been foiled not by advanced weapons or brilliant strategy, but by the simple, implacable force of Earth's gravity. Yet questions remained. How would the aliens adapt? What new strategies might they employ? And how would humanity handle not just the military challenge, but the scientific and diplomatic implications of this extraordinary first contact? As the sun set on this historic day, one thing was clear. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and gravity had unexpectedly tilted the playing field in humanity's favor. Humanity's counterattack. As dawn broke over a world forever changed, humanity found itself in an unprecedented position. The alien invasion, which had initially sparked terror and despair, had been stymied by an unexpected ally, Earth's own gravity. Now, with the Zorak invaders struggling to operate in Earth's environment, the time had come for humanity to seize the initiative. In military bases around the world, soldiers geared up for what would surely be the most unusual combat operations in history. Their enemy was technologically superior, but physically compromised, creating a unique tactical scenario that no war game had ever prepared them for. At Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Captain Maya Rodriguez briefed her Special Forces team. Listen up, people. We're dropping into the Mojave Desert crash site in 1 hour. Our mission is to secure any alien technology and, if possible, capture Zorak survivors for interrogation. Private First Class Tyler Chen raised his hand. Ma'am, what kind of resistance should we expect? Maya's face was grim. Honestly, Chen, we're not sure. These aliens are struggling with our gravity, but they're still an advanced species with unknown capabilities. Stay alert and don't underestimate them just because they're having trouble standing up. As the team boarded their transport, similar scenes played out across the globe. In the steppes of Russia, Spetsnaz units moved towards a crash site near Novosibirsk. The Chinese People's Liberation Army mobilized around a landing zone in the Gobi Desert. British SAS teams were en route to a downed ship in the Scottish Highlands. Meanwhile, in orbit, the remaining Zorak ships maintained their positions, a constant reminder that the threat was far from over. Back in Washington, President Chen convened an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council via secure video link. The faces of world leaders filled the screens around her, their expressions a mix of determination and concern. Ladies and gentlemen, Chen began, we face an unprecedented global threat, but we also have an unexpected advantage. The Zorak are struggling with Earth's gravity, giving us a window of opportunity to act. I propose a coordinated global effort to secure all alien landing and crash sites, pool our scientific resources to understand their technology, and present a united diplomatic front. The Russian president, Anatoly Volkov, leaned forward. And what of the ships still in orbit, Madam President? They pose a significant threat. Agreed. Chen nodded. Which is why I'm also proposing we fast-track our global missile defense initiative. We need a shield capable of protecting Earth from orbital bombardment. As the world's leaders debated strategy, the first engagements with the Zorak were already underway. In the Mojave Desert, Captain Rodriguez and her team approached the crash site under the cover of dawn's early light. The twisted wreckage of the alien ship loomed before them, still emanating an eerie, pulsing glow. Move in, but watch your steps, Maya ordered. There could be debris or unstable ground. As they advanced, they spotted movement near the ship. A group of Zorak, their spindly bodies struggling against Earth's pull, were attempting to salvage equipment from the wreck. U.S. Special Forces, Maya shouted, her voice amplified by her suit's speakers. "Lay down your weapons and surrender." The aliens turned, their large, multifaceted eyes reflecting the dawn light. For a moment, there was stillness. Then, with surprising speed despite their gravitational handicap, the Zorak raised their weapons. "Take cover," Maya yelled, as energy bolts sizzled through the air. Her team scattered, diving behind rock formations and wreckage. Private Chen, finding himself behind a piece of alien hull plating, risked a glance at the enemies. "Captain," he called over the comm. "They're using some kind of anti-grav tech. Small devices on their suits." Maya processed this information quickly. The Zorak had adapted, but not perfectly. Their movements were still awkward, but they were definitely more mobile than before. "Aim for those devices," she ordered. "Disable their gravity compensation." The Special Forces team adjusted their tactics, firing precise shots at the small, glowing devices on the Zorak suits. As each device was hit, the corresponding alien would stumble, once again fully subject to Earth's merciless pull. Within minutes, the skirmish was over. The Zorak, their anti-grav devices destroyed, lay prone on the desert floor, unable to effectively move or fight back. As Maya's team secured the aliens and began to explore the crashed ship, similar scenes played out at sites across the globe. Humanity, using its home field advantage and adaptive tactics, was gaining the upper hand in ground engagements. But the real game changer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Reyes, working with a global team of scientists, had been studying the Zorak technology recovered from various crash sites. In a secure lab beneath the Arecibo Observatory, she made a breakthrough that would alter the course of the conflict. "It's their propulsion system," she explained to a rapt audience of scientists and military officials via video conference. "It's based on manipulating gravity fields. That's why they're struggling so much with Earth's gravity. It's interfering with their tech on a fundamental level." Dr. Tanaka, patched in from the White House, leaned forward. "Are you saying we can use Earth's gravity as a weapon against their ships?" Elena nodded, her eyes bright with excitement. "Exactly. If we can amplify and focus Earth's gravitational field, we might be able to disrupt their ships completely. I'm talking about creating localized gravity wells that could effectively pull their ships out of the sky." The implications were staggering. Within hours, scientists and engineers around the world were collaborating on what was quickly dubbed Project Gravity Well. As humanity rallied its defenses on the ground and worked feverishly to develop its new gravitational weapon, the Zorak in orbit seemed to sense the changing tide. The massive ships began to shift, moving into more aggressive formations. In the White House Situation Room, alarms blared as new intelligence came in. "Madam President," General Harding reported, his face ashen. "We're detecting massive energy buildups in the Zorak fleet. All signs point to them preparing for an orbital bombardment." President Chen's jaw tightened. She turned to Dr. Tanaka. "How long until Project Gravity Well is operational?" "We need more time," Tanaka replied, her voice strained. "Maybe 48 hours to have a working prototype." Chen nodded gravely. "Then we need to buy that time." She turned back to General Harding. "General, initiate Operation Slingshot. Let's show these aliens that humanity won't go down without a fight." As orders went out and the world braced for an orbital assault, humanity's resistance entered a new phase. The initial invasion had been repelled, but the real battle for Earth was about to begin. With their backs against the wall and the clock ticking down, humans would need to summon every ounce of their legendary ingenuity and determination. In labs, in military bases, and in the halls of power, the message was clear. Earth had surprised the Zorak once with its gravity. Now it was time to use that same force to strike back and show the aliens that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. As the Zorak ships in orbit prepared to rain destruction from above, humanity steeled itself for the fight of its life. The next 48 hours would determine the fate of the planet, and every human on Earth knew that failure was not an option. The counterattack was on, and Earth's gravity would once again play a crucial role in deciding the outcome of this interstellar war. The alien adaptation. As the world held its breath in anticipation of the Zorak's orbital assault, a new development was unfolding in the shadows. The aliens, despite their initial setbacks, were proving to be remarkably adaptable. In a secret underground facility in Geneva, Dr. Yuki Tanaka pored over the latest intelligence reports. Her eyes widened as she took in the implications of what she was seeing. "This is unexpected," she murmured, quickly dialing the secure line to the White House. President Chen answered immediately. "Dr. Tanaka, what's the situation?" "Madam President, the Zorak are adapting faster than we anticipated," Tanaka reported, her voice tight with concern. "They've developed a new type of exosuit that's allowing them to operate more effectively in Earth's gravity." Chen's brow furrowed. "How effective are we talking about?" "Effective enough to pose a significant threat," Tanaka replied. "These suits seem to create a localized anti-gravity field around the wearer. They're not perfect, but they're a game changer. The Zorak are now able to move and fight with much greater agility." The president absorbed this news, her mind racing. "And what about their ships? Any changes there?" Tanaka nodded grimly. "Yes, they seem to be modifying their smaller vessels to better withstand our gravity. They're not as fast or maneuverable as they were in space, but they're now capable of controlled flight within our atmosphere." "Damn," Chen muttered. She turned to General Harding, who had been listening in. "General, how does this affect our defense plans?" Harding's face was grim. "It complicates things, Madam President. Our ground forces were counting on the aliens' reduced mobility. We'll need to adjust our tactics immediately." As if on cue, reports began flooding in from around the globe. In the mountains of Peru, a team of UN peacekeepers found themselves suddenly outmaneuvered by a squad of Zorak troops, their new exosuits allowing them to leap across ravines and scale cliffs with ease. In the urban canyons of Tokyo, JSDF forces engaged in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse with alien scouts, the extraterrestrials using their enhanced mobility to leap between buildings and ambush human patrols. And in the skies over the Mediterranean, NATO pilots were shocked to find themselves dogfighting with alien craft that darted and weaved with newfound agility, no longer handicapped by Earth's gravitational pull. Back in Washington, President Chen called an emergency meeting of her crisis team. "People, we need solutions," she demanded. "The Zorak have adapted to our gravity. How do we respond?" Dr. Elena Reyes, patched in from Arecibo, spoke up. "Madam President, I think I might have something. We've been studying the alien tech, and we've made a breakthrough in understanding their gravity manipulation technology." "Go on," Chen urged. "Their tech doesn't just counteract gravity," Elena explained, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "It manipulates gravitational fields at a fundamental level. If we can reverse engineer this technology, we might be able to turn it against them." General Harding leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "Imagine if we could increase gravity in a localized area," Elena said. "We could pin down their troops, ground their ships, maybe even create gravity wells to trap their orbital fleet." The room buzzed with excited murmurs. President Chen held up a hand for silence. "How long would it take to develop this technology?" Elena hesitated. "That's the catch, Madam President. We're looking at weeks, maybe months of development. And that's assuming we can overcome the enormous power requirements." Chen's face fell, but Dr. Tanaka interjected. "We might not have months, but we do have an interim solution." All eyes turned to her. The Zorak exosuits and ships still rely on their original gravity manipulation tech. If we can disrupt that technology, we can negate their advantage. "And how do we do that?" Harding asked. "Electromagnetic pulses," Tanaka replied. "A strong enough EMP could short out their gravity tech, leaving them once again at the mercy of Earth's natural gravity." President Chen nodded slowly, a plan forming in her mind. "Dr. Tanaka, Work with our military to develop and deploy EMP weapons immediately. Dr. Reyes, continue your work on reversing the alien gravity tech. General Harding, I want our forces briefed on these new alien capabilities and prepared to deploy EMPs as soon as they're ready. As the meeting adjourned and orders went out, the global battlefield began to shift once more. Human forces, initially caught off guard by the Zorak's newfound mobility, began to adapt their own tactics. In the urban battleground of Sao Paulo, Brazilian special forces used the city's complex network of alleys and favelas to ambush alien patrols, negating the advantage of their exosuits in close quarters. In the vast expanse of the Sahara, a joint task force of Egyptian and Sudanese troops used long-range artillery to target alien landing zones, denying them stable bases from which to operate their gravity-assisted craft. And in the icy wastes of Antarctica, a coalition of scientists and special forces raced to unlock the secrets of a mostly intact Zorak ship that had crash-landed near the South Pole, hoping to find weaknesses in the aliens' new adaptive technology. As these ground battles raged, the situation in orbit remained tense. The Zorak fleet, while still largely immobile, continued to show signs of preparing for a massive assault. Earth's fledgling orbital defenses were on high alert, ready to intercept any attack. In labs and workshops around the world, scientists and engineers worked feverishly to develop the EMP weapons that could turn the tide of the ground war, while also pushing forward with the more ambitious gravity manipulation technology that could potentially end the conflict altogether. The fate of the Earth hung in the balance. The Zorak had adapted to humanity's gravitational advantage, but humans were proving once again that their greatest strength lay in their ability to innovate and overcome. As the conflict entered this new phase, both sides knew that the next move could decide the outcome of the war. In the White House Situation Room, President Chen watched the holographic display of the global battlefield, her face set in grim determination. "We've surprised them once," she murmured. "We can do it again. Humanity will not fall. Not today. Not ever." As if in response to her words, a new alert flashed across the screens. The Zorak ships in orbit were on the move. The next phase of the battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The final stand. The world held its collective breath as the Zorak fleet in orbit began to move. Massive ships, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly sheen, descended towards Earth's atmosphere. This was it, the final push, the aliens' attempt to overwhelm humanity's defenses and claim the planet as their own. In the White House Situation Room, President Samantha Chen watched the holographic display with steely resolve. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. General Harding stepped forward. "Madam President, the Zorak fleet is entering the atmosphere. Our orbital defense systems are engaging." But he paused, his face grim. "They're not going to be enough." Dr. Yuki Tanaka interjected. "The good news is that our EMP weapons are ready for deployment. We've managed to outfit a significant portion of our ground and air forces with the technology." Chen nodded. "And Project Gravity well?" Dr. Elena Reyes, her hologram flickering slightly, spoke up. "We're close, Madam President. Very close. But we need more time." "Time," Chen mused, "is the one thing we're short on." She straightened, addressing the room. "Deploy the EMP weapons. All available forces are to engage the Zorak. We need to buy Dr. Reyes and her team the time they need to finish Project Gravity well." As orders went out, the skies above Earth erupted into chaos. Zorak ships, now adapted to Earth's gravity, swarmed down from the heavens. They were met with a hail of missiles, energy weapons, and the newly developed EMP devices. The EMP weapons proved devastatingly effective. Wherever they detonated, Zorak ships tumbled from the sky, their gravity manipulation technology temporarily disabled. On the ground, alien troops in exosuits suddenly found themselves once again at the mercy of Earth's pull-easy targets for human forces. But the Zorak numbers were overwhelming. For every ship brought down, two more seemed to take its place. The aliens had committed fully to this assault, throwing everything they had at Earth in a bid for victory. Across the globe, fierce battles erupted. In the heart of New York City, the Statue of Liberty stood witness to a desperate struggle as U.S. forces fought to repel alien dropships landing in Battery Park. The streets of Paris became a war zone, the Eiffel Tower serving as an impromptu command center for French resistance. In orbit, the remnants of humanity's space forces engaged in a desperate holding action, sacrificing themselves to slow the Zorak advance. The International Space Station, hastily converted into a battle platform, fired its last missiles before being consumed in a ball of fire. As the battle raged, Dr. Elena Reyes and her team worked feverishly in their underground lab. "We're almost there," she muttered, her fingers flying over holographic controls. Just a few more calculations. Suddenly, the lab shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling as the sounds of battle grew closer. "They're here," one of the scientists said, fear evident in his voice. Elena gritted her teeth. "Keep working. We finish this, no matter what." Back in Washington, President Chen received the dire news. "Madam President, we can't hold them much longer. Our forces are being overwhelmed." Chen closed her eyes for a moment, the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. When she opened them, there was fire in her gaze. "We are humanity. We do not give up. We do not surrender. If this is our last stand, then let it be one that the universe will remember for eternity." As if in answer to her declaration, a new voice crackled over the comms. "This is Dr. Reyes. Project Gravity Well is online." A cheer went up in the Situation Room. "Deploy it immediately," Chen ordered. Around the world, hidden generators hummed to life. The air seemed to thicken as the fabric of space-time itself was manipulated. Suddenly, the Zorak ships still in orbit found themselves caught in powerful gravitational fields, dragged inexorably towards the Earth. On the ground, the effect was even more dramatic. Zorak troops and their adapted vehicles were pinned to the ground, crushed by gravitational forces far beyond what their technology could compensate for. But the victory was not without cost. The immense energies involved in Project Gravity Well were taking their toll. Power grids across the planet flickered and failed. The very ground trembled under the strain of the manipulated gravitational fields. In her lab, Elena Reyes watched the readouts with growing alarm. "We can't maintain this level of gravitational manipulation," she reported. "The planet's tectonic stability is at risk." President Chen faced an impossible choice: continue the assault and risk destroying the very planet they were trying to save, or power down and face the remaining Zorak forces. As she wrestled with the decision, an unexpected message came through. It was from the Zorak command ship. "People of Earth," the alien voice rasped, translated through human technology. "We surrender. Your world, your gravity, it is too much for us. We underestimated you, and we have paid the price. We ask for mercy." A stunned silence fell over the Situation Room. Chen exchanged glances with her advisors, then stepped forward. To the Zorak forces, she began, her voice carried across the global communications network. "We accept your surrender. All hostile actions are to cease immediately. You will submit to human authority and prepare to be boarded." As the orders went out, a collective sigh of relief swept across the planet. The Zorak ships still in the air slowly descended, powering down their weapons. On the ground, alien troops laid down their arms, their once imposing exosuits now little more than burdensome shells under Earth's assertive gravity. In the days that followed, the full scale of the conflict became clear. Cities lay in ruins, millions had perished, and the scars of the invasion would take generations to heal. But humanity had survived. More than that, they had triumphed against an technologically superior foe, using the very essence of their world as a weapon. As the cleanup began and the process of integrating the surrendered Zorak into a new global paradigm started, President Chen addressed the world. "People of Earth, We have faced our greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The road ahead will not be easy, but we have proven that together we can overcome any obstacle. Our gravity, the very thing that shapes our world, has saved us. And now, as we look to the stars, we do so not in fear, but in anticipation. For we have shown the galaxy that humanity is a force to be reckoned with. The message spread across the planet and beyond, into the depths of space. Earth had repelled an alien invasion, using the power of its own gravity. The human spirit, much like the force that kept their feet planted firmly on the ground, had proven to be an irresistible force. As the sun set on this new era, humanity looked to the future with hope and determination. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bonds strengthened by the gravitas of their shared victory. The Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun, its gravity a silent sentinel, forever watchful, forever protecting the indomitable spirit of humanity.